Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining tonight. We've got our bonus session tonight here with Meghan Elfelt. Am I saying that right, Meghan?
Yes, you are.
Excellent. And Meghan is a Catholic mindset coach who specializes in working with women. But I think there'll be a lot to gain for anybody in this session tonight. So tonight's session is about comparison. And without doing too much, I just want to give a little intro and reminders that this bonus session will have obviously posted and sent out to everybody, but also we will have our last third and final bonus session next week, Thursday. So keep your calendars marked for that and look out for an invite. I'll send that by email and by Facebook as well. So that's what I've got for an intro here. I'm going to let Meghan kind of take it away. It's going to be pretty interactive, I think. So like I said in the email, have a paper and pencil or something to write with and write on, ready to go for the session. And yeah, thanks, Meghan. Thanks for joining us. I'm so glad to have you.
Yes, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Meghan, as Shauna has so graciously introduced me. I'm just really grateful to be here as your bonus speaker because I hear this is such a beautiful cohort. So a quick little intro of who I am. I am a Catholic strategic mindset coach, as Shauna introduced. However, in layman's terms, what does that mean? It means I equip women post-college on how to integrate their lives together. And I do this through a Catholic lens. So because growth requires a destination, and for us as Catholics, that means always focusing on centering our lives on Christ. So in the self-development world, you cannot, as a Catholic, you can't kick God out of the picture. He's front and center. So 2 fun facts about me, like get a little bit acquainted before I dive into this great content, is I am actually one of 11 kids. And I love my family very fiercely. So 7 girls, 4 boys, they're the best. I really, really, truly wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for my great parents and my beautiful siblings. And then the other thing I'll share is that I actually just moved to the Twin Cities. So if you have a favorite activity or a restaurant or an outing that you love, please share it in the chat or email me. I'm going to share my email at the end of this if you're watching the replay, because I got my best recs, my best recommendations from people who've been living here and really not the internet. I want to hear from you guys. So glad we could get a little bit acquainted. I have so many recs. Woo! So I have a jam-packed evening planned for you all. And thank you for those who were able to attend live. If you couldn't, I hear that you've had a lot of bonus speakers all at once. So whenever you're watching this replay is going to be awesome, but this is the time to make sure you have a pen and paper available. So if you're watching the replay, pause, go grab your pen and paper. If you're here live, quick run, go grab some pen and paper and come on back. So I have a lot of writing exercises that we're going to be doing throughout our evening together because I am a huge, huge, huge believer in implementation. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Let's make sure you guys can see this. All right, great. So let's get started. All right, we're gonna dive in because it's time to kick comparison out of your driver's seat. What you're gonna learn tonight is you're gonna learn what comparison is costing you. We're gonna bring a ton of clarity to your thoughts, what your current mindset is on comparison. Obviously, I'm going to leave you with many, many action steps. Gotta love that implementation, and then have a little Q&A at the end because I'm sure you'll have some questions and I would love to answer them for you. We're going to begin with envy. Yes, we're going to begin with envy on this Thursday evening or whenever you're watching this replay. Envy is the art of counting another's blessings instead of our own. Envy is the art of counting another's blessings instead of our own. In Father Lovasic's book, The Hidden Power of Kindness, and if that book is not on your bookshelf, it most certainly should definitely be. It's called The Hidden Power of Kindness. He describes envy in this way. Envy which is rooted in pride and vanity, is sadness over the good fortune of another, because that good fortune stands in the way of something that one desires for himself. Okay, so let's pick this apart. While envy disrupts our social life, envy kills friendships, it's the chief source of misunderstanding and criticism, the most harmful consequence actually falls onto the envious individual himself. I don't know if you guys know this, but out of all of the passions, out of all of the 7 deadly sins, envy is the only one that yields nothing but pain. Envy has no reward for us. It gives no gratification, like lust or gluttony, definitely not condoning those. Envy literally only brings us misery. So envy is like this gnawing worm that destroys peace of mind. And the envious person becomes so distrustful, unjust, and suspicious. And if that wasn't like worse enough, envy actually makes its victims ill-tempered, sad, and unapproachable. So envy really, ladies and gentlemen, is pained by the good. And the sight of the happiness of others hurts the eyes and the heart of the envious man. So when we choose to envy others, we are left absolutely miserable in our thoughts, absolutely miserable. So what does counting another's blessings look like? Well, you're looking around at what every other person has. You're looking over at that friend who has a beautiful marriage. You're looking at that coworker who just got a raise. You're looking at your sister's family who got to go on vacation with their family this year. You're looking at that acquaintance on social media and envying their life. Sound familiar? So I want you to grab your pen because we're going to dive into our first exercise of the evening. I want you to write down your answer to this question. When you compare yourself to other people, what thoughts are you thinking about yourself? So right now, I want you to think of someone in your life that you often compare yourself to. I'll give you 2 small examples. She always looks so put together, and then there's me. He's so available to his family, and I'm such a failure as a husband. Think of someone in your life that you often compare yourself to, and now I want you to write down the thoughts you think when you compare yourself to them. Give you a little bit of time. You're writing down any thoughts that come to mind when you compare yourself to other people. All right. Finish that last thought. And if you're finished, I'd like you to pop in the chat if you're available to. What came up for you? What did you notice? What were your thoughts focusing on? I'm not as present as a mom as I should be. It's feeling mom guilt. What else? The first step, guys, to taking action in our lives is gaining awareness of where we are. So we can't move forward unless we know where we are. So that's why we're writing down these thoughts. So this is so good. This is so, so good, because when we become aware, then we can really, really, truly take action. So I'm less than, I'm ashamed. All right. The reason why you're comparing, and one of the very biggest reasons we compare, is that we actually don't value our self-worth, which really means that we don't have a healthy self-image. And your self-image is this belief that you hold in yourself. And if your self-image is not very good, so if you're letting the physical and the material and the externals get in the way, then that is going to correspond and weigh heavily upon your self-worth. I want you guys to understand what comparison is costing you. I want you to see that when you compare in your thoughts to other people, you are cutting yourself off from learning from them, cultivating a friendship with them, and almost the worst offender, you guys, are all the gifts that God is trying to give you. And I know this so, so well, because I've spent so much time in different seasons of my life comparing my situation to others. But when we compare, how do we feel about ourselves? Like, what emotions are coming up? I'm going to read you a culprit list of emotions. When we compare to others, you guys, we feel miserable, depressed, jealous, disappointed, lonely, sad, hopeless, hurt, resentful, ashamed, as one of you said, isolated. And so actually, if that's the cost of comparison, is sitting in all of that muck, then it is true that comparison is the thief of joy. And we've heard this so often. Theodore Roosevelt was the one who really coined this, that comparison is the thief of joy. Because this is more of the cost of what comparison is stealing away from you. Because comparison steals your thoughts from focusing on reality and truth of what are all the good things in your life, all the good gifts that God has given you. We waste so much time because we focus on what we don't have. I'll get on that later. It really brings all of those negative emotions I just listed. And absolutely the worst offender is that it leads us so far away from God, because we totally have our blinders on and we're only looking at what they have and what we don't have. So we're not looking at our talents and our gifts. We're so hyper-focused on what everyone else has. That's a pretty heavy cost in life. Comparison steals a lot from us. When I think about comparison, I really think of it as like a measuring cup. It's like an act of measuring our worth and other people's worth based on a perception of what makes someone worthy of like importance. So it's like we have this subconscious habitual judging. So we're holding a measuring cup to looks, religion, size, actions, origin, significant other, beliefs, intellect, money, holiness. Sound familiar? So we're going to enter into our second exercise. I want you to grab your pen. And I want you to identify who makes you vulnerable by asking yourself why to these questions. We're going to discover these pain points because I want you guys to begin this journey of really, really, really deep freedom by understanding why you feel a certain way when you see a man or a woman who's confident, or when you see a man or a woman who's smarter than you are. So I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes. And I want to ask yourself this question, and you guys are going to ask yourselves this question. Sorry for the typo there. That if you're a man, why do other men make you feel vulnerable when they're confident? If you're a woman, why do other women, when they're put together, make you feel vulnerable? So I want you to go through these questions and see what you uncover. I'll give you a couple minutes. And maybe tonight you're just choosing one and you're just seeing what you're going to uncover with just one. So the question was asked, what does it mean makes you vulnerable? So when we're identifying something that makes us vulnerable, you can kind of think of it as a synonym of makes me uncomfortable. So when another woman who's confident is in your life and you feel hyper focused on your insecurities, that's what I mean by vulnerability in this case. Why do they make me feel insecure? Why do they make me feel like less than? Give you guys one more minute. All right, I'll give you like 10 more seconds to finish your last thought. You guys can always come back to this too. You have the replay as well. For those of you who have finished, I want you to choose one of them and pop your why into the chat. Was it strong relationships? Was it men or women who are liked? And why? What did you uncover? There's no right or wrong answer here, you guys. So as you guys are popping that into the chat, most of us don't even realize that this is happening. It's literally so habitual. You can actually feel comparison in your body. And sometimes your facial expression says it all. This is why it's so important to pay attention to our own thoughts and first become aware. Because here's the problem. Comparison is actually coming from our own insecurities. And this is why it's so important to understand our worth. Because otherwise, we're always hustling after all these externals. And the antidote to make us feel better when we're hustling and we don't know our worth and we don't know what our talents and our gifts are, is to focus on how someone else is doing less or not better than us and all the comparison to make us feel better about ourselves. The numbing pill is comparison because it makes us not focused on who we are becoming. I want you guys to see that every time you judge, it's a numbing pill. And going back to the chat, what came up for me was that I'm not always sure what others think of me and I'm not very aware. So it begs the question then, why do we put people into boxes all the time? Stay-at-home mom versus the working mom, dad bod versus the gym dad, rich and flashy. Obviously, rich and flashy have to go together, right? Versus you have to be poor to be holy. Going through all of these, sometimes we aren't even aware that we're putting people in boxes. I want you guys to live your life with no more boxes. What if you were to look at other people and going back to the exercise that we just did, and instead of judging them and placing them in unfair boxes, oh, well, they're only smart because they had that higher education. Oh, they have that strong relationship because X, Y, and Z. Instead, you say, I see others and their unique story, because there's always something to learn from them. So what happens to a person when they're comparing? Well, if you constantly have this insane perfectionistic mindset, or you always feel like you're chasing after worth and you feel like you're needing to prove and perform and please to everyone in the world, then you're never going to feel good enough. And so what does that lead us to? Well, then we self-protect. And then we develop all these insecurities and we doubt our worth. You guys, we become so stingy. This is the problem. We're just trying to protect the little pile that we have. We need to understand that if we want to follow the call of our Lord as a Christian in this world, in this time, we were made for this time. The call, you guys, is to generosity. We got to understand who we are and the abundant way that God created us. Otherwise, we will always be stingy. And when we're stingy and when we compare, we don't compliment other people. We're so hyper-focused on our insecurities. We can't give to other people. We can't acknowledge the presence of someone else or strength or a skill. Most of us aren't even aware that we're cutting ourselves off from generosity. We can't compliment, we can't give, we can't acknowledge. This is crazy. But what's going on in your brain when you compare? That's the real question. Well, when our reactions are so unconscious to us, maybe you know, through this discovery, or if you're watching the replay and you've paused and you know, and one of these exercises, you've discovered a lot and have found some epiphanies, you realize, oh my gosh, Megan, I didn't even know I was doing that. Or I didn't even know I was comparing to that person. Well, when our reactions are unconscious, we no longer possess free will. It is my firm belief that God has given us one of the greatest gifts, because we were made in the last of the lineup of creation and we possess free will. We get to choose our thoughts. You guys are choosing to compare yourselves to others. And when you choose that through your free will, you're actually becoming a slave to your habitual thought patterns. So where do these habitual thought patterns come from? Well, your body knows comparison better than your mind. It's so automatic how we feel when we compare. We avert our eyes. We get red in the face. Like, listen to your body when you start comparing to people. It's when I say like habitual thought pattern, like if you would just have never been aware of this before and you just don't know the gravity or the depth of it, it's pretty challenging to unlearn how to drive a car. It's pretty challenging to unlearn how to ride a bike. So I get it. I really do. But this is the reality that we have to grasp, is that you've wired the skill of comparison so deep into your brain, the way that you think about others, that now it's second nature. So what do we do about it? You're like, Megan, you're being so depressing. What do we do about it? Here's some action steps. I want you guys to think of comparison as the following. When you are comparing yourself to someone else, maybe you see confidence in another dad. Maybe you see confidence in another mom, and you're like, oh, I'll never be as confident as her. Oh, I'll never be as confident as him. What you're doing is you're seeing in them something that you actually admire, but then you're turning it into something really negative. We are all about ego. We love to think about ourselves and everyone else in comparison to us. What I want you to do is really challenging, but really tremendously beautiful. I want you to look at the other person as a little kid, a little girl, a little boy. Go back to that first exercise. Who is that person that you thought of, that you compare yourself often to? Because let me tell you, they are so worthy of appreciation, affection, and admiration. They don't deserve the negative, horrible thoughts that you think about them in comparison. I want you to think of them as a little kid. Maybe you feel threatened by someone and you're judging them. Think of them as a little one. Honor them. You don't have to agree with everyone, you guys, or even like them. I'm not telling you, you don't have to agree with them and you don't have to like them, but to choose to think and to catch yourself in those comparison thoughts and to catch yourself and to say, you know what a beautiful soul. I bless her. I bless him. I wonder what her story is. I wonder what his story is. Or someone in the world loves him. Someone in the world loves her. That is such a powerful way to look at other people, honoring their journey, getting curious about their story, blessing them, not the judge. Honoring someone does not mean you agree with them. I'm offering curiosity. How many times, I'll give you like a small example. How many times have you left Mass on a Sunday and you're debriefing with your family or a friend, and one of you goes, well, that was a strange homily. Blah, 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 blah. What if instead we think about it this way? Well, you know what? Part of what he said was really good. Part of what he said was really good. Catch yourself. Become a son or daughter of God who's so focused on finding the good instead of quick to compare. You guys, this skill is going to bring you so much freedom. And when you become aware of how much you compare, in the next couple of days, you guys are going to realize the errands you run, the people you see, maybe, emails will pop up, or social media, or your coworkers, your children. You are going to realize all of these thoughts that you didn't even know that you were thinking about, and how often you judge. You guys, we get so consumed by what's right and what's wrong as Catholics to a fault. We don't see people. I want you guys to see the people in front of you. We're so consumed about truth and we forget about love. Let me tell you, your first obligation as a Christian is to love and to be a reflection of the Father's love to others, which means we need to appreciate and honor others in their story and stop playing the judge. There already is a judge. You're not the judge. So if I haven't already hit this home, comparison is really eating you alive. It's consuming you. We've already talked about the cost of it. And so how do we replace comparison? We celebrate other people. I'm not saying you have to like them, but you can honor them and you can be curious of thinking to yourself, instead of she's da 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 da, he's da 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 da, how about I can learn from him, or I can learn from her? Or when you feel this draw to competition, how about collaboration? When you really want to judge someone and you really want to figure out what's going on in their life, how about empathizing with them? You don't know their story and you'll never know it. It's not yours to know. When you really want to criticize someone or their decision-making, how about admiring something else in them? Or when you really want to doubt, instead you choose hope. Because hope, my friends, is an action. Hope is a firm action. It's a decision. You get to decide. I think the reason that we don't see good in others is because we're so quick to judge their actions. And I'm going to say this again, we become blind to their humanity. Okay, I want to become aware right now of a lot of the roadblocks to comparison in your life right now. So we're going to do our last exercise of the night. And I'm going to read through these and I want you guys to answer. I also put it on here, for you guys to go back through if you want to watch the replay, or if you're watching the replay. If I was watching the replay, I would want to see this. I'm a big visual person. So I'm going to read through these and I want you guys to answer truthfully and honestly, not as your past self, not as what you want to be, where you are right now. Answer yes or no to these questions. I see the good in others and I'm quick to replace judgmental thoughts. Yes or no. I'm quick to find the good in others that I meet. Yes or no? I believe every person is equally worthy of the good. I don't hold myself in higher or lesser esteem than any other person. Yes or no? I am quick to find ways to compliment, give others credit, and acknowledge their journey. Yes or no? Others' accomplishments do not make me insecure, rather inspired and encouraged. Yes or no? I gain wisdom from other stories. Yes or no? My walls are down and I allow myself to be seen as I am. I have no mask. Yes or no? I believe that everyone has, sorry, a little typo, a unique story to tell, and I choose to listen to their story. Last two. I do not allow different or even opposing beliefs to become barriers within my friendships. Yes or no? And lastly, I have command of my mind and choose gratitude and kindness in my thoughts. Yes or no? What a list, right? All right, if you are here live, I would love to hear which ones stood out to you. What was one that was really, wow, that was hard to answer, or one that was like yep, that was a heck no? You pop that in the chat, and believe me, someone else is thinking the same thing that you are. So solidarity here. Someone found that it was really hard to say just yes or no to some of these. Found themselves saying, well, most of the time, or it depends, which is good. You're becoming aware of it. I have a mask. When my walls are down, I don't allow myself to be seen as I am. I see the good in others and I'm quick to replace judgmental thoughts. That was a tough one. We had two for my walls are down, to be allowed to be seen as I am. Yeah, really good, guys. I'm so used to saying ladies. And the mask one, yeah, awesome. So when we become aware of how this is affecting us and how comparison is really costing us, and we actually have language for the struggle, it doesn't become this gnawing worm anymore. As I mentioned earlier, there really is a lot of hope. And you guys, you get to decide. You get to decide. You get to choose every single thought that enters. You get to choose whether it stays or it leaves. And so we're going to go through some scripts. And if you're unfamiliar with scripts, these are really replacement thoughts that when we start thinking a thought that really isn't serving us well, God gave us an incredible, incredible brain, an incredible gift of free will that we get to choose the thoughts, whether they stay or whether they leave. And I know I'm repeating myself, but repetition is so, so important, you guys, because this is such a gift. Now, I want to, before you choose a script, we're gonna go through a little process here of why and how scripts are so very important. So the first step to all of this is that we needed to become aware. Okay, so awareness was the first step. We figured out, oh, I have my mask on a lot, or oh, I judge people all the time in my thoughts. Okay, great. You now have a starting point. That's amazing. We really need to become aware of when these negative thoughts of others arise. So I want you guys in your life to start paying attention to when you start criticizing others, not only in your thoughts, but also vocally. Okay, it's like venom. It's venom in your brain and it's venom spewing out of your mouth when we criticize. I can't believe he made that decision. I can't believe she does that with her family. Okay, I want you guys to start paying attention to the thoughts and also when you are speaking these judgments as well. So it's kind of like you're observing the critic in your own thoughts. And then I want you guys to study your emotions, your bodily reaction, okay? When you feel like you have that mask on, how do you feel? Is it disappointment? Is it frustration? Is it, how does insecurity feel in your body? That's really, really important to just be like aware of so that we can move on to the next step, which is to replace. And you can't just erase a thought. It doesn't work like that in our brains. What we can do though, is we can replace thoughts, because so many thoughts we've been believing for such a long time have actually turned into, and this I guess would be like another talk if for another day, turn into like vows and agreements. Okay. So in our mind is made up of some in neuroscience, it's said, between 5 to 8% of your brain is made up of your conscious brain. And then the remainder, I think it said 5 to 8. So 92 to 95. Yes. Math on a Thursday night is your unconscious. That's your subconscious brain. And in your subconscious, you guys, it's like when you get into the car, you don't even think that you're readjusting the mirror or readjusting the seat. You just do it because your wife drove the car and now you got to like push it all the way back. You just do it. It's like a habit. Or when you're on a bike, you just know when to brake. It's just habit. That's your subconscious telling your conscious when to act. So this is why erasing a thought in your conscious brain, when you start becoming aware of criticizing and judging others, why you can't just erase it. Because so much of those beliefs are way back here in your subconscious. So we need to replace the toxic thoughts. And these scripts are going to be really, really powerful for you. And by writing a mental script to use in those moments when you're becoming aware that you're criticizing someone else or you're judging someone else, you're going to build a very, very strong new muscle of thinking. And let me tell you, it is a muscle. You have to be very patient with yourself. This is not just some like hunky-dory thing that you do in a day and your life is complete and you're just going to get rid of comparison. This is a process of becoming aware so that you're strengthening this muscle over time. And so really, this is a recipe for complimenting others in your thoughts and finding the good. Because remember, when we're comparing ourselves to other people, we initially saw good in them, and then we were prone to jealousy or envy, and we made it all about us. Okay? So I want you guys to look through these scripts, and if one of them really stands out to you right now, to write it down, because replacing thoughts takes time. So maybe for you, it's, oh my gosh, if you just like don't understand why people choose the decisions that they choose and you're always criticizing and judging them, maybe your script is going to be, I wonder what their story is. Man, they've got to have a great story. I wonder what their story is, and find the good. Or maybe you are really desiring towards some virtue. And you just, oh my goodness, that family has such strong discipline. Oh, I want the discipline that family has. But then we make it about us, of how we're not measuring up or how we're not there yet, instead of honoring like, oh, wow, I celebrate how that family teaches their kids discipline. Do you see how that change is so drastic to what we do in the day-to-day? And how much that it can help you. And so I'm going to turn the slide here. So choose which script is really going to serve you well. And really the whole point of replacing a thought and choosing one of these scripts is to begin by becoming aware of the negative or toxic thought at the get-go, and then replacing it with some sort of truth. And these are the truths, because the truth is you're not the judge. It's not your job. So I'm almost finished here. It was a little bit shorter, but I wanted to have some Q&A for you guys to ask me some questions. And I was praying about, I was praying in scripture, and I was really asking our Lord, you know what, like, what do you want me to bring tonight to these lovely people, or for those who are watching the replay? And I have 2 scripture verses that I want you guys to reflect and to journal on. This is Timothy. Now there is great gain in godliness with contentment, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. I think that word contentment is a word that we really, really need in our day-to-day to be reminded of. Okay, Lord, what does contentment look like for me? Because comparison, you guys, is the whole opposite of contentment. So I hope this spoke to you. The other scripture is the lovely Romans. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And just know that you have so much God-given power by choosing to use your free will for good and choosing to believe truths versus lies. Because let me tell you, the devil dances when you compare. He absolutely has a party. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a part of that party anymore. Beautiful. Awesome. So before I open up for Q&A, these are some of the ways that you can stay in touch with me. My email is just my first name, period, last name @gmail.com. So Meghan.elfelt@gmail.com. If you want to take a screenshot of this or write that down, if you are here live. I also have an opportunity for women. And so if you're a woman, or if you have a sister or a wife or a sister-in-law, goodness, so many women, cousins, nieces, coworkers, all the people, I send out weekly growth tips. So I make sure that, those emails are beautiful, that I'm not spamming you, and that you're always left just, wow, yeah, that was like a really, really good insight to bring into your life. Because goodness knows that we have a really crazy and chaotic world right now, and that truth is really something that we're all really craving. If you're someone on social media, you can follow me. My handle is Meghan Elfelt. And if you're interested in my offer, my only offer currently, it's a pretty great offer though, is with one-on-one coaching with me. So I have packages for women who are in those post-college years. I understand that there's several women here in their 20s. I do open up my coaching for women, in their 30s, but really predominantly my niche is for women in their 20s, helping with transitions and change and goodness, all of the things. I don't currently have a website because I want to meet you guys in person, or virtually rather. So if you email me and you're like, hey, Meghan, I think I might be interested in getting to know you more and figuring out like what coaching would look like. Coaching for me is, I don't just accept anyone who comes into my door, because this is a very personal and private partnership. I have to be a good fit for you, and you also have to be a good fit for me. So if that's something that interests you, I do actually have a couple slots that are opening up in the next weeks, because I have clients who are wrapping up their beautiful journeys with me. So I would love to get in touch with you. And then something to kind of like a little seed to plant in the back of your mind is, goodness, God put a really beautiful dream on my heart to open up a workshop for women in those first couple of years, struggling in those first post-college years. You feel like you're being thrown to the lions, my goodness. And the workshop is called Embrace Your Now, and it should be coming out this spring. And so if that is of interest to you, to definitely get onto my email list with this link, or to email me if you have nieces, cousins, sisters who are in that state of life. It's going to be an incredible group coaching opportunity. And I'm really, really excited to offer that. So I will take very good care of whoever you send my way. And then last but not least, Shauna mentioned a very exciting opportunity for you guys. You have like a big giveaway at the end of this amazing, I think 7 weeks you guys are in this program. And I offered one free session with me. So if you are a male, by all means, I can't wait to meet you. And if you're a female, by all means, I can't wait to meet you too. So if you win that, you'll be seeing a little bit more of me in coaching. So I'm just so happy to be here with you all. And I just would love to open up the floor for any questions that you have, any stories that, anything here that just inspired you to be like, oh, this makes so much sense when I in this season. Or questions on any of the process or scripts. So I'm just going to open up the floor and stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Meghan. That was awesome.
Welcome.
Yeah, any questions feel free to drop them in the chat. It's also a small enough group that I think we can just unmute too and just ask out loud. So feel free. And I have one to start us off.
Great.
So you mentioned examples in the beginning of like comparison, of like trying to think of when this comparison stuff comes up. You mentioned like on social media or whatever. Do you have any like practical guidance or tips on those situations? Or would you say it's better to actually like focus on the scripts or focus on the thoughts, regardless of what you're doing? Does that make sense? Like would you suggest like, I don't know, curbing your social media use, or only doing certain things on social media, or only putting yourself in certain situations to like avoid the whole thing? Or would you say, no, you should still be in those situations and actually practice like the thoughts and the scripts? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you set it up. You set it up really well there, Shauna. So, well, I'll start off by saying, like, with social media, like, why are you on there? What's your intention? Like, everything we do in life should have an intention behind it. And so if you don't have an answer for why you're even on social media in the first place, then you shouldn't be on there. Oh, well, everyone else is on there. That's not a reason. What's your reason? Oh, I follow this one cook who gives me recipes for my chronic illness, and that's where I find my recipes, and I've gained so much freedom from following her. That's an intention. But if you're like, oh, I just like to see what everyone's up to, that's not intention. And so to answer the second part of your question, if you are, social media, I really try to steer away from it because I didn't want it to be the only example, because not everyone uses social media, and comparison comes up all the time, not on social media. It could be at mass, like comparing your family to someone else's family. My goodness, right? So when it comes to, for instance, a woman for you that you see on social media and you are just overwhelmed or frustrated or disappointed, whatever emotion that you're feeling, to just unfollow her in that moment, but not really feel the emotion that you're feeling and really understand, like, why the heck am I feeling this way about this woman? Is it her family? It's like to really get down to like the root of it, instead of just unfollow, I'll figure it out later, as a cop out, because you're not really getting to the root of the issue. And that's just going to keep like coming up and coming up. And so that's why I went through some of these exercises of like, okay, for for a husband who's confident, for a woman who, she's just so put together and I'm never put together. So if you just unfollow all of the women who you think are put together on social media, then you're never going to get to the root cause of why you don't feel like you're put together. And so really getting to the root of it. And I think just like sitting in front of the Blessed Sacrament and saying like, Lord, I now know what I've done in comparison, and it's just really sent me so far away from you. And I just really want to understand why I do this. Why do I see that woman as a threat? And then listen to what he has to say. That's what I'd say. Does anyone else have any questions? Isabel, I'm so glad you showed your lovely face.
Sorry, I was finishing a class and then it's just time to eat and
no, family life. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Can I help you?
No, I think just a comment I really liked when you said about, like, I wonder what their story is, because I think for me it's very easy to just go to comparison, of course, like for the things that I long for in my life, like my desires, and that I don't see them accomplished or not accomplished as I would like them to, But I think that it has really helped, like just even like a small prayer, or like deliver me from the temptation of, like using the Our Father, like in that part of deliver me from that temptation of comparing myself to her, because yes, it's true, like my story is so unique, and her story, usually with women, no? Like her story is also unique, and you have a plan so unique for her and for me. So So that has helped, but definitely, yeah, that's so I really liked when you said that, because that clicked with me.
That was really beautiful, Isabel. I'm really glad that you offered. And can I respond to you? I have something that I think might help. So I actually gave this presentation, but I gave it through the lens of kicking comparison out of your driver's seat when you don't figure out what your talents and your gifts are, to women who were in their early 20s. And I was like, this is such a good topic, but let's really focus on, self-image. And in that talk, I don't think we actually know what hope means. Because you have desires that aren't fulfilled yet, and I have desires that aren't fulfilled yet. But let's take a step back and let's look at what hope is. Because hope means to have confidence and trust in. To have confidence and trust in. So when we don't choose to have hope, that we have a good and loving Father who's going to give us beautiful gifts, then how are we showing up in our life? Well, then we're comparing. Well, she got that, and I really wanted that, and I can't believe, she's a grandma and I'm not a grandma, and, she has this and she has that, and God never listens to me, right? So it's interesting, because if you go back to the Garden of Eden and you hear the words of what Eve said, what Satan actually said to Eve in the garden was, well, he didn't actually say that. Which means, in kind of my interpretation of that, is that then Eve didn't actually believe she had a good and loving Father. So if Eve, and through original sin, we know that we have very similar temptations, that we cut ourselves off from God, that if we're living our lives oh yeah, God's good. Oh yeah, God's good. But you don't actually believe that God is a good and loving Father because your actions don't match that, then you're always going to be stuck in comparison. So that's why I always tell my ladies, hope, my friends, is an action. It is an action, because to have hope means you have confidence and trust. And the most beautiful part is joyful expectation that you do have a good and loving Father, and you wait in expectant joy and hope that your desires will be given in God's timing. But I think we have to be reminded of the garden. No, he didn't say that. It's the whisperings of the devil always, well, you don't have that. She got it. How horrible. Well, he whispers to us all the time. And I think, definitely both men and women struggle and suffer through comparison. However, I think that women more so than men, because our brains were literally wired. Our brains have not changed. We're so primal. They have not changed in thousands and thousands of years. And men, God made men to be the hunters. Their brains were soaked in testosterone. God made women, and our brains were soaked in estrogen, and we were the gatherers. We have scan vision. We're always looking. We were looking for roots. We were looking for berries. We were looking, scanning. We're so detail oriented, which means all the ladies here when we watch this replay, our brains are on hyper drive focus on all the ways we don't measure up at every moment of our day. And if we're not aware of it, we are eaten alive. We are absolutely eaten alive. And this is why your becoming aware of your thoughts is so, so important. And especially those who are mothers or are going to be mothers. And then bringing it back to the guys here, the same thing for you. Because your kids soak up what energy you give off. And the energy that you're giving off are the thoughts that you're choosing to think with your God-given free will. Being a parent is a beautiful, beautiful gift, but it's also a privilege. And like with great privilege comes really great responsibility. They never said the path to sanctity was an easy one, but man, it is so beautiful. And so I think as a hopeful end to this, I didn't really check the chat to make sure, okay, there weren't any other questions, is as soon as we end this, I want you guys to write down all of the ways in your life, literally take just 5 minutes, even close your eyes or with your pen and paper that you already have. And I want you to focus on all the ways that God has come through for you in your life. Think of a season in your life where you were like, God, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And you didn't feel like he was answering you. But then he did. It just looked different than what you had been praying for. So write down all of those ways that, wow, God really did answer that prayer. Oh yeah, I did have that desire 5 years ago and he answered it last year during COVID, whatever it may have been. So that is a really, really important exercise because what it's doing, and I promise it's the last, but God gave us incredible brains. And on the stem of your brain, you have a beautiful organ called your reticular activating system. I like to call it your RAS, your RAS. So your RAS, literally, you guys, when you choose to focus on something in your life, it expands in your brain. It's when your wife gets pregnant or you're pregnant or someone you know is pregnant, and then all of a sudden you just see all the pregnant ladies around. You're like, why are all the pregnant ladies following me? Or your family gets a brand new car. You get, I don't know, a white Accord or something, or a Honda minivan. And all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere. You're like, oh my gosh, everyone has that car. Like what? Everyone's getting that car. Everyone's not getting that car. Your brain is focusing on something. And because you chose to focus on it, it's expanding in your brain. That's what comparison does. You choose to say, I'll never be a confident woman. I'll never be as confident as her. I'll never be as hardworking as that dad. And then your brain is literally giving you evidence for all of the ways in your life that you don't measure up. I was literally just telling my husband that all of a sudden there are blue cars everywhere. Now that we have a blue car, they're everywhere. I thought they were rare, right? That's your RAS. That's literally your God-given superpower, is that you get to choose what you focus on. And I think that's so beautiful, Isabel, that that's your script. Like, I honor her and her story, because I think one of the biggest takeaways that, like, we as adults, especially during, like, we are faced with so many decisions on a day-to-day basis, like never before in history, from education to religion to politics. Like every front is just being attacked. And we have to make so many decisions for our families and so many decisions for ourselves. And it can be very, very easy to really be steeped in that comparison. This is why daily prayer is absolutely a necessity, more important than water, in my opinion. So this has been so lovely. I love talking. I could talk for hours, but you guys are so lovely. It has been just a tremendous joy to be with you. If you're watching the replay and you want to connect, please reach out to me, even if it's just like hey, I was thinking about this the other day. I love hearing from you guys. So thank you so much, Shauna. Thanks, Isabel. Thanks everyone who was able to make it, and hope to hear from you guys soon.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. Yeah, I appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and stop.